Hello, everybody. Welcome in once again to the Casual Sports Podcast. I'm Alan Cabrera. With me once again, it's always him. It's Matt Morrison. You know him. Fortunately and unfortunately for some people, so.
What?
Yeah,
Everybody loves me.
I don't know about that one.
Well, the people that I care about love me, so I don't care if you don't like me. Screw you.
All right, you can see me. All right, well, let's get into things here. It's Wednesday. September 22nd, middle of the week. We're working through it. It's a long week, man.
It's always a long week.
But you know what? We're getting down to some good football again this weekend. Couldn't be more excited. We got a really good game on Friday on YSN Live at 7. Mogador and Warren JFK. Man, it's going to be a clash of titans.
Good game.
We're going to preview that one on Friday's show to kick things off. But today, what are we covering? Matt, we're going to talk Saints-Panthers. Carolina, or pardon me, I'm slurring everything here. I swear, this is just plain apple cider. There's nothing else in it. Cardinals versus Vikings, Buccaneers versus Eagles. Buccaneers versus Falcons. I can't even read today,
What
Matt.
is wrong?
Oklahoma versus Nebraska from this past weekend. Fresno State pulled off the upset like we predicted against UCLA. We're going to talk that one a little bit. BYU versus Arizona State. Clemson versus Georgia Tech. Then we're going to preview NC State versus Clemson this coming Saturday. Potentially going to be ringing that bell here again. And we got a few headlines to talk about. We got some boxing stuff. Who's the best 0-2 NFL team? And we're going to talk a little bit about Washington's new name predictions here coming up later on the show. So let's get into things here. Question of the day, how we normally started off from yesterday. Who holds the NFL record for most consecutive field goals made? The answer to that one is the GOAT himself. Adam Vinatieri hit 44 consecutive field goals while also being the oldest player in the league at the time he did it. So, GOAT Vinny, best kicker of all time, undoubtedly. And your question of the day for today, which star NC State wide receiver was elected to the College Football Hall of Fame in 2019? Your options, Don Bucky, Jericho Cotchery, Terry Holt, Corin Robinson, or Jalen Samuels. Tune in tomorrow to see if you get it right. So, Matt, let's start off this show. Saints didn't live up to the hype. How about Sam Darnold not doing too bad?
Not tuned? I mean, everybody's going to look good once you come off a bad team. I mean, look at Ryan Tannehill when he left the Dolphins. He's great in Tennessee. Now, look, you left the Jets, you go to Carolina, you're instantly better. Because you're leaving a crappy team.
But these just aren't even numbers we ever saw from him when he was playing for the Jets. 26 of 38, 2 touchdowns, and 305 yards. Yeah. Yes, he had the one interception, but he did great, and it was really without the help of McCaffrey. McCaffrey on the ground had 1 touchdown on 24 carries for just 72 yards. Something we don't really expect out of C-Mac, but, he did it through the air as well. 5 receptions for 56 yards, or 65 yards. But this Panthers team just came out and dominated to start this thing out. Took it 17-0 into the half, and then the defense didn't let up a touchdown until the fourth quarter. And on the other side, Jameis Winston didn't put up that many yards week 1. He put up even less here in week 2. Went 11 of 22, 2 interceptions and 111 yards. So much for Jameis Winston being all that. This was, frankly, just a terrible game. But they also didn't run the football. Their offense couldn't go anywhere. And Kamara, 8 carries, 5 yards.
Oh, God. That's not too good.
Not too good? That's terrible, man.
That's terrible. Well,
that's abysmal.
I didn't want to come out and dog him like that. But
you get 8 carries. This is supposed to be one of the top 10 running backs in the league. This is why year in, year out, I'm always skeptical about picking this guy up in fantasy football because he's not consistent. Yeah. And, blame it on the offensive line, blame it on the quarterback, whatever.
If you're still not consistent.
Right. You look at the guys that are in the league. Even on a bad night for McCaffrey, he's still got 75 yards. Yeah. And, you look at so many of these good running backs. Look at Chubb. With the Browns, top 5 running back, I'd say. He doesn't really have a bad... If he has a bad night, he's still over 50 yards.
Yeah. And he has Kareem Hunt to back him up.
Right. And then, Kamara, helped out a little bit through the air. Led the team with receptions. 4 for 25 yards, but... The Saints team just doesn't look good.
No.
After this game, so much hype after the Packers and...
What happened to targeting Juwan Johnson? That guy was a beast in week 1. He only had 1 reception
and went for 23 yards. Jameis Winston couldn't hit the guys. I didn't get the chance to watch it, so I just get to look statistically at this. It doesn't look like he found his guys at all.
No, that's horrible. So it's all on him. Man. It's all on him.
Well, when your quarterback's throwing 50% in 2 interceptions, I mean, I'm sure there's some drops in there, but that is not the numbers you want.
No.
Jameis is going to have to clean that. But we know he's good at throwing the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he led the league in touchdowns and interceptions, so we know people can catch his ball pretty easily.
Yeah.
You know, he had 50 guys catch it that year? 25 on offense, 25 on defense? You know, I mean, Well, what's your takeaway from this game? I mean, they're going to go up against the Patriots and the Giants their next 2 weeks, and probably some games where they're going to need to step it up a little bit more on offense. They don't have to have great offense in those games because the teams they're going up against, offenses aren't great, but they're going up against some good defenses. So I think they're going to need to produce, obviously, more than 7 points in a game next week, but, you know, might only need 7, 14, 17 points, you know, in that game to pull out the win.
I think
they need better defense, though.
I think they had a little too much hype coming out of that. Oh, we just beat the Packers and Rodgers. Oh, we're so good. And then you come up with all that confidence, and it goes completely down the toilet against Carolina. You got to have a different mindset every week. Okay, we beat Aaron Rodgers. That's great. Let's focus on Sam Darnold and the Panthers now. Let's not get above our heads too much. They were
riding the high. Riding the high and came on crashing down. I think it's an overall bad game for the Saints. They're going to need a rebound, though. So, next game up on the slate.
Oof.
Despite being 0-2, and this might be one of the teams we talk about later on in the show, the Vikings have put it to back-to-back opponents, including the Bengals, and now the Cardinals. 33-34 Cardinals win it last minute.
On a missed field goal.
Right.
Shamed it.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins, though, he doesn't perform in prime time, but he performs in regular time pretty damn well. 22 of 32, 244 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook had the game he needed, though. 22 carries, 131 yards. And, I mean, look at the spread on the way he hits his top receivers. KJ Osborne, 5 receptions. Justin Jefferson, 6 receptions. Thielen, 6 receptions, and all 3 had touchdowns. Spread the ball out. When we have seen quarterbacks so far in the season spread the ball out well, whether it's been college or the NFL, they've won football games.
Derek Carr and the Raiders.
Did to the Steelers.
Yeah.
Spread the ball out, won the game.
And you're going to win the game.
And, I mean, Kyler Murray on the other side, not bad for him. Besides the 2 interceptions, 29 of 36.
400 yards. 400 yards.
3 touchdowns, too.
29 passes. And you get 400 yards.
I take that.
I know you don't like him too much, but
I don't like him, but that's a good performance. I think he's a good quarterback.
Dude,
I just don't like him.
I love him. You know, I hate Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes. You don't like Kyler Murray.
Yeah, but you won't admit they're good.
Yeah, I admit Pat Mahomes is good.
Exactly. I can say Kyler Murray is good at the same time not liking him.
I just hate him.
I don't hate Kyler. I just don't like him.
You just don't like him.
I'm mad that he proved me wrong by a mile, and you saying I didn't think he was going to be a good quarterback, and he killed it, man. 400 yards. You live with this stat line for Kyler Murray. 2 interceptions. That's not coming every week. You know that.
And I like the run game here. I like Chase Edmonds. And how about James Conner? You know, I mean, 8 carries, 26 yards. But, I mean, you have Chase Edmonds and Kyler Murray.
I think I gotta let Edmonds run the ball a little bit more.
Yeah.
Averaging 5.8 yards per carry in this ball game. I think that was a game they needed to hand it off a little bit more. But when Kyler Murray's wheeling the team like that, obviously they're like, you know what? Let him throw it.
Yeah. I like him getting out to Rondale Moore, too. 7 receptions. He hit 2 of his guys 7 times. Christian Kirk 3 times.
Yeah, went to the tight end 7 times. And Max Williams. Well, I mean, that's pretty good. Then you obviously Kirk with 3, Hopkins with 4, A.J. Green with 3. Then you even hit Edmonds with 5. I mean, everybody was touching it.
They're loaded in the receiver corps.
Right?
They are loaded.
And I think Rondale Moore is kind of one of those young guys kind of just flowing under the radar since he came out of Purdue. I mean, he had the one big game against Ohio State.
Yeah,
it skyrocketed his draft stock, and he's been kind of all right in college since then. Yeah. And he gets taken here by the Cardinals. I think probably the perfect team for him because of the way they use their speed guys. They have a lot of older, slower, I think, wide receivers. Yeah. Getting Rondale Moore, an absolute speedster, out there on the field and let him work in space, I think it was the perfect system for Moore to go into. And obviously you see it right here. It was 16.3 yards per reception. So 114 yards for the young kid.
I like him. I like this Cardinals team a lot.
Man, they got everybody. I mean, look at the defense too with Buda Baker, Isaiah Simmons, Jordan Hicks, J.J. Watt, Marcus Golden's in there. I mean, the list goes on and on for this squad, and they were just all over the place.
Chandler Jones.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dude's a beast.
Not to mention, can we talk Matt Prater hit a 62-yarder?
Yeah.
That's what, one yard shy of the NFL record, or did that tie it? I know it's right around there is where I think it was McManus from the Broncos said it. We're looking that up here momentarily.
64 yards.
Okay.
Set by Matt Prater.
Oh, Matt Prater, yeah. So we know he's got the leg. What an absolute bomb. But let's talk about their punting unit here, too. I don't feel like we ever give special teams enough credit. 4 punts for Andy Lee. Averaged 55 yards per punt. Put 2 inside the 20. At 221 total yards punting. What a night for Andy Lee. I mean, everyone on the Cardinals, I think, really performed. It was just on the other side. Dalvin Cook had a night, and so did Kirk Cousins. And what did we say week 1 with Kirk Cousins? When he has a good game, they have to capitalize on it. They nearly did. They came up that close.
It was a field goal.
Right. Same as they did week 1. But we're not going to see Kirk Cousins like this for all 17 weeks here in the NFL. They have got to start capitalizing on his great games. Dalvin Cook had a great team too. Their defense, though, is this unit that needs to step up. I mean, this is back-to-back weeks where they have had to rely on their defense down the stretch, and they haven't been able to. You go back to the Bengals game week 1. 27 points allowed. Now here, 34 points allowed. And the road doesn't get any easier for the Vikings. No. They have Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, who I think there's still a lot of question marks in that offense.
Yeah.
And, we'll get. I mean, we've talked about that, and we'll get to it more here at some point. But then they got the Browns, who we've already seen be a very explosive offense. We'll see how they do without Jarvis Landry this coming Sunday. But it's still going to be a lethal squad. They got a lot of great guys, and the tight ends unit might just end up taking over. The Vikings have to figure it out on defense going into these next 2 weeks. I mean, obviously they'll get the Lions, so they should get at least one win here in the first 5 weeks. So, Lions 0-17?
Maybe.
Or 0-16 or 0-15, whatever it is.
0-18, I don't know.
Lose every game.
They're going to lose every game.
Maybe. I mean,
maybe.
It'll take something for the Lions to pull one of these off, man.
Yeah.
But, on the other hand, this Cardinal squad, 2-0, 2-0, win over the Titans week 1. And the Titans squad we just saw not do too bad. I mean, they just picked up a win over the Seahawks, 33-30.
In overtime.
Right, in overtime. So they're not such a bad team. So I think that creates an interesting thing to look at. Cardinals just kind of ran them over 38-13 coming here against a Viking squad that has a lot of question marks on how well the defense is. Clearly we can see their offense can score. It's just the defense can't stop the other team from scoring back. And then Cardinals should pick up a win next week against the Jags. Then they get to go up against a good defense. And this is the matchup I'm looking at, the LA Rams.
This is going to be a matchup.
I think it's been a great defense so far. And I really like this 3-piece set here for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
They go from LA to take the Rams on. Then they get to host the 49ers before going into Cleveland to take on the Browns. 3 pretty good defenses they're going up against there.
Yeah.
And picture that with the great offense that Stafford's starting to put together in LA. 49ers are starting to find their rhythm too, and then the Browns. They're the Browns. They got a good offense.
They got a great offense.
Right.
Even with Landry going down, you got Odell coming back. So.
Yeah, here shortly. I don't think they've officially announced when he's coming back. It's kind of been week to week here, so I'm sure we'll find out later in the week. Probably see something on the show when it does, because can't help but talk about the Brownies. Yeah. If you want our NFL preview for this week, and make sure to tune into the show on Friday, we'll get down to business there. But Matt, what are your other takeaways from this Arizona-Minnesota game?
First of all, Kyler Murray's a complete baller, okay? Holy cow. I mean, he's got to be an MVP candidate so far. He has to be. Oh, yeah. He had, 29 passes, 400 yards. That's insane. He can wheel and deal, too, dear God. When he scrambles out of the pocket, that's where he's most dangerous, okay? That's where he's really dangerous. Scrambles out. If he can't find anybody 50 yards down the field because he can throw it that far, he'll take off. He'll take off 10, 12 yards to get the first down. The guy is unbelievable. And
then in terms of where he is in passing yards, second in the league right now behind Derek Carr.
And in front of Patrick Mahomes. Right in front of Patrick Mahomes.
Right in front of him. And then you look at touchdown race, he's second right behind Tom Brady.
Only 2 behind him.
Right. So he's got more passing yards than TB12 by about 40. So it's a close race still between those two.
Yeah.
And needs to get rid of one of those picks and get a few more interceptions a few more touchdowns the next game.
Yeah.
He needs Tom Brady to start throwing picks, and we know TB12 doesn't do that too often.
Not too often, no.
Speaking of TB12, what a game he just had. This is why he has 9 touchdowns on the season. 24, 36, 276 yards, 5 touchdowns in the win over Atlanta. Atlanta might just be the worst 0-2 team, and that's saying something with the Lions right next to them.
They might go 0-17.
Man,
they might. They're horrible.
It's not looking good right now for the Falcons, I don't think. I mean,
when were they just in the Super Bowl? How long ago? 51? How long? Yeah, but when?
4 or 5 years?
4 or 5 years?
But they're relying on Matt Ryan, and how many times have I said it?
He's horrible.
It's not that he's horrible, because he is, 9th all-time in passing in the NFL? He's old. It's past his time. I mean, obviously he can throw the ball, but he's not winning you football games. 35 of 46, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions against a great defense in Tampa Bay. But they also can't move the ball on the ground. And I think this Falcons organization is so stuck in the mud, wanting to try and ride out into the sunset with Matt Ryan, that they're not focusing on rebuilding this franchise. No. And you see that quite often here in the NFL, sticking loyal to one guy till the end and letting your team suffer because of it. But at the same time, you're letting your young guys on this team struggle. Like, Mike Davis, Cordero Patterson probably only have another 3-4 years left in the league.
Mike Davis is a beast, too.
Right.
But
both him and Patterson have now been in the league for a couple of years, and lifespans of wide receivers and running backs aren't that long. We're seeing it now with Zeke and the way he's starting to fall off. We're going to see the end of a few guys here fairly shortly that I think are like, oh, what? No, how? And it's going to start this progression, and you don't know how much longer you have with a guy before he tears an ACL, goes out, or whatever. You have to capitalize now, and you go to Kyle Pitts, obviously the youngest guy there. 5 receptions, 73 yards. Calvin Ridley, 7 receptions, 63 yards. And, I mean, the wide receivers had a great day. This offense had a pretty great day. But the defense, awful. And it's one of those things, it just doesn't feel like the Falcons are willing to change.
No.
And they can't win football games.
They're old school.
You're going against the game against Atlanta, you're like, I feel pretty confident we're going to win this.
Yeah.
Whether this was this year, last year, year before.
It's not like you're going in, facing a team like Tampa Bay. I'm like, I am scared as hell.
Right, Tampa Bay, Kansas, the Cardinals. You go in there,
Ravens.
Like, good luck.
Browns.
Right, you just send up a prayer and you go, hold it. Well, good luck. I don't know if I put the Browns in that category because I think teams aren't. I don't think teams are afraid to go up against the Browns because at the end of the day, they're still the Browns, and you can most likely rely on them at some point to Browns it up. So
Okay.
But man, what a performance! 48 points. I don't know. Is that the most we've seen this season from one team?
It's got to be up there.
I think 48's up there, man. I mean, let's look at the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys game was only 31-29.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody scoring more than that. I don't think anyone's hit 48 yet. So this Tampa Bay team's so lethal, and obviously it's so hard in the NFL to win back-to-back championships, right?
Yeah.
Let alone make back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. Tom Brady's not only won it, a handful of times. He's been there, right? 2 handfuls.
Well, a handful and a half.
I mean, don't worry. I think that hand might be full by the time his career is done. If he's playing to 45, he's got 3 years left on that until he hits that mark. I think he can win 2 more Super Bowls, and with the team he's got right now and the way they are performing, I think he's going to be just fine.
He's 44.
Well,
he's playing until he's 50, so it's all right.
Yeah, he's going to play until the league falls apart in 25 years. We're just going to have old man Brady and a cane just launching it downfield to some kid that's not even born yet.
The kid was born on the day he won his first Super Bowl or something.
Right.
That's probably already happening.
It is.
It is.
I mean,
2001, so a couple years.
I mean, I was born 2000. We just saw, we were talking about before the podcast earlier today about Defensive Rookie of the Year's potential, and The one guy was born in June of 2000. And I was like, geez, I'm the same age as the guy going into the NFL. And it's like, Joe Burrow is older than that, and this is only his second year in the league. He's up there 24 years old. So, yeah, we're going to see kids, that weren't born when Tom Brady started playing football.
I'm older than some of those players right now.
Right.
We're getting old. That's when you finally
Speak for yourself.
realize.
I'm still young and youthful.
Oh, yeah, you're getting there, old man.
But, I mean,
I'm
Tom
old
Brady,
man.
that's impressive. I mean, putting up more points than his age. Consistency from TB, man. All right, well, let's move on here out of the NFL. Shorter NFL segment here today.
Yeah, that's
getting down to a few of the blowout games. So
that was the highest. The second highest was the Saints a week ago. 38 points.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking there.
10 points lower.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to the midpoint of the week, so you get all the hot topics right off the press coming in there, and you got to save some for the rest of the week. So let's get into some college stuff. Didn't live up to the hype. Everyone was like talking about the game of the century from decades past between Oklahoma and Nebraska. I don't think it necessarily lived up to the hype, but I still thought it was a pretty good game. 16-23, Oklahoma wins it, seals the deal with the game-ending interception, the one-handed pick inside the red zone. What a dirty move, man. Going up there and just boom.
We were in class when you were looking at shirts they already made of that. That just happened.
Like Kirk Thurston's like, I want that on a shirt, man.
Yeah.
And then here we go later today. I just see it up there, the one-handed interception. And I was just like, man, that's dirty. And talk about a low-scoring game for the Sooners. And I think there's a lot of question marks coming out of Oklahoma right now on how they're performing. We look at their games so far in the season, nearly beating out Tulane. Obviously, the win over Western Carolina is nothing. It was 76-0. But you don't look at that game and go, "Oh, that's an impressive win right there." No, that's impressive considering you put up 76 points. But then you look at it against, you're like, I would have probably seen 50, but good on you for getting 70 in that game.
Yeah. 76.
Then you come out against a Nebraska team who's now 2-2, and their only wins are over Buffalo and Fordham, and they lost to Illinois. I mean, and then you go to Illinois and you're like, oh, well, aren't they at least good? No, not really. They've lost back-to-back now, or 3 straight, to Maryland, Virginia, and University of Texas San Antonio. So Nebraska doesn't look like a good team. Illinois looks like a worse team.
Yeah.
And this was a one-possession ball game coming down the stretch of things. And overall, not a terrible day for Rattler. I don't think he's the Heisman. I don't think he's going to be anywhere close.
No.
And frankly, I don't think he's going to be the best guy coming out of the college football when he enters the draft either. I think he needs to stay, develop more. I mean, we know Lincoln Riley can produce quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think Rattler needs to stay. I don't think he should be leaving there anytime soon. He
No.
should stay there 4 years. In Oklahoma, I think by that 4th year, if their defense can continue to perform like they do, I think they'll be set with him. I mean, maybe even his 3rd year, he'll look better.
Maybe, yeah.
But 24-34, I'll take that. 214 yards, though. I want a little bit more and just 1 touchdown. You can't do that. I mean, that looks like a Big Ten football stat. If you're going up against a Nebraska team, you can't let them set the tempo.
No, not at all. And Scott Frost, I mean...
This is how Big Ten teams win out-of-conference football games. They go in there with this slow, methodical, I'm going to punch you down the throat, and I'm going to hit you in the rib shot. It's like Rocky Balboa going up against Apollo Creed, just hitting him in the ribs, making it hard to breathe. And then once they're down to it, you just kind of have to push him over, and they fall aside, and you can win the game. And that's why when you look at Big Ten out-of-conference games, most of the time there's slugfest coming down to the final possession. And it's a heart attack to watch because Big Ten football is not run and gun style. It's not this, Big 12 offense where they're just launching it down the field, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. It's not the SEC where you have big explosive players and massive walls of defense. It's, big, slow linemen pushing against each other out in farm country.
Yeah. Big boys. Eating corn and lifting hay bales.
Yeah, corn-raised
like
diets
is
what these offensive lines are made of. That's why you see so many great old lines.
These kids coming in the house, hey, Mom, what's for dinner? Oh, corn chowder. Oh, what's for dinner tonight? Oh,
cornbread.
Cornbread. Corn and rabbit.
But it's this is why you see so many great linemen coming out of the Big Ten. It's because of the style of play. It's slow, but it's so heavy and aggressive that it translates well into the NFL. So you can't let them set the tempo of this ball game. If you're going up against the Big Ten team, we saw it with Alabama. What was the success against Ohio State, who doesn't necessarily run the traditional Big Ten offense, but when it comes down to it, they do like to. You've seen it with Travion Henderson. What they've started doing this season, running the game out of the pistol instead of what they've normally been doing, having the quarterback and running back side by side like they did the last season and seasons before, because they just weren't able to run the football very well. Now they're going back to the pistol, running it up the middle, attacking the heart of the defense and getting out those tough yards. They're getting back to Big Ten football, and how that'll translate out of conference. We saw it against Oregon, it didn't. So, but once again, going back to this, strike early and get the Big Ten teams on their heels, speed the game up, and see if they can compete on offense, because most of the time they can't. There's not a lot of great quarterbacks in the Big Ten that can go point for point for you with touchdowns. Especially with Adrian Martinez.
Yeah, I was just about to say, especially Adrian Martinez.
And he had a good game, too.
Good game. Good
needs
career.
more touchdowns.
I feel like he's been there for decades.
Right, I think this is his third or fourth year.
Something like that.
He's been there as long as Scott Frost, so they've been there together as one unit the entire time.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing the production out of him. He went 19-25, though. So it was a good day for him from the office.
Almost
289 yards. Just the one touchdown. They have to find the end zone more. It starts on the ground game. Martinez cannot be the guy carrying it 17 times, and your leading running back, Ramir Johnson, just getting an 11 for 42 carries. They've got to find the ground game more. Like we keep talking about here, Big Ten football, smash mouth football. Set the tempo, run it slow, get the clock down, and make your opponent stop you. And do that by running the football. And that's what Big Ten's football is made of. That is how the Big Ten has become the Big Ten. The Big in Big Ten isn't, it's because of the linemen. That's why it's the Big Ten. Got some big hefties out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a game I think Nebraska could have won, and they maybe should have down the stretch with the way they made Oklahoma stick down to just 23 points. When's the last time you see Oklahoma's offense score 23 points in the regular season? Regular season, mind you.
That's hard.
Right? I'm not sure. Obviously, you go playoffs, so you can't every time they're in there. But, regular season, you don't see Oklahoma getting held to 23. I think that speaks to the strength of Nebraska's defense in this game.
Good defense.
But they need more offense. This is a game they win if they have better offense.
You turn that interception into a touchdown.
Tie ball game. All right, next game up here on the slate. We talked about it. We called it. Bruins got upset by the now ranked number 22 Fresno State Bulldogs. Bulldogs take it 40-37. And, man, what a second half by UCLA, though. 27 points they put up. They let up 17, though, in the second half. And scoring in this game was off the charts throughout. But you look at Fresno now in the season. They stuck it out against that Oregon squad who pulled off the win against Ohio State. They were 7 points behind in that game. Now they have a win over top 25 UCLA. They beat Cal Poly. Doesn't matter. They won the game.
Yeah.
And then they beat UConn, who
now
is awful. Oh, my God. It's, 9 straight losses for this team after they lost 52-21 to Army? The Army is never a team that has good offense.
I didn't even know Connecticut had a football team. They
just show up. They're just grabbing people
they're
off.
They're basketball school,
right.
Mostly.
But, Fresno State is on something right now. They could make a good stand in their conference. You look at the games coming up. UNLV, that should be a good win for them.
Heck yeah.
Hawaii.
The Rise of Mortel, he played finally.
Did be great. You got the Hawaii, Wyoming, Nevada, San Diego, Boise there towards the end of the season. Might be their only really, tough game. We're still waiting to see how Nevada and San Diego State work out. But, Fresno State is looking good right now. I don't think they're going to get all the way up top 10 talk or New Year's 6. But if they continue on at this flank, I think they're going to find themselves in a good bowl game coming up. And this is where it starts, getting big wins. And their quarterback, Jake Haener, 39-53, 455 yards for 2 touchdowns. You look at that, you go, just 2 touchdowns. Then you look at the ground game. Ronnie Rivers, 21 carries, 136 yards for 2 touchdowns. And it's just man, what a nice. Then you look at Jalen Cropper, had 1 carry, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. Then 14 receptions for 141 yards and a touchdown as well. And you just go, hold on. Then you look at that. They had 2 guys go for over 120 yards because Josh Kelly had 8 receptions, 120 yards.
That's
what a day of offense for this squad, man. Then you go over to UCLA. I mean, DTR had himself a good game, but they needed to throw the football more. I think they got a little ground happy in that one. And they struggled to find the end zone at times, and I think their defense helped out a lot more. But Kyle Phillips, receiving-wise, 7 receptions, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. Then Cam Brown had 5 receptions, 111 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Zach Charbonnet on the ground, 6 carries, 19 yards, 2 touchdowns as well, though. So they were finding the end zone, and DTR had himself 3 touchdowns through the air with 278 yards, but he had just 14 receptions. So, I mean...
I like Zach. I like Charbonnet transitioning over from Michigan to UCLA. He hasn't been dominant, but he's been productive.
He's brought off some big runs.
Yeah.
And he didn't bite him off here this past week, and if he had, this is a game that probably goes UCLA's way. But the fact that they can have just 14 catches on 24 attempts, no one over 70 yards rushing, and still put up 37 points of offense, 37 points in a football game, I think speaks to how talented this UCLA squad is. They were just going up against a Fresno State squad that frankly wanted it more.
They wanted it more. They were more hungry.
They were hungry.
They were the Bulldogs.
Looked like Mr. Roman Pierce. He's hungry.
He's hungry.
I'm always hungry. Pockets aren't empty leaving that one. Fresno State takes home the big win against the Bruins of UCLA. And another big win that once again we called. BYU, the Cougs, taking home the upset over the Sun Devils of Arizona State, 27-17. And despite Arizona State taking the third quarter, they couldn't do anything in the second or the fourth, so it didn't really matter. They lost at 17-27. And, I mean, they had a good day, sort of, offensively. I mean, 21-29, 265 yards, 2 interceptions. Couldn't find the end zone there, but Nagata and White on the ground combined for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns. On their side, and Jaden Daniels himself took it 10 times. He didn't get much of anywhere, just 8 yards for him. But Rashad White, the leading wide receiver from the day, 65 yards on 9 receptions. And it was an offense that I think struggled to find big plays. And when you can't find big plays in big games, you don't win the game. You know, at the end of the day, long, successful drives are great. But at some point, you need somebody to make that big play and give you momentum. They never find that. BYU did in the second quarter. 14-0, they outscored Arizona State. And from there, they only needed 6 more points to seal that deal. Yep. And, they went up 21-7 going into the half. Come back out, and now it's 21-17. They were in a spot. They were in a dogfight down in the last half of this game.
How about Jaron Hall, man? I know only 214 yards, but he only threw it 27 times. I mean, they carry the ball a lot, too, as well. 21 carries for
Tyler Allgaier,
Yeah.
You got a touchdown.
That's balance. That's a perfectly balanced offense right there.
It is, and obviously you want to eliminate the 2 interceptions from this ball game, and obviously the nice trick play there with Baylor Romney got them into the end zone on a 3-yard pass for him. But overall, I think it was a good day from this offense, and you love to see this BYU team right off of giving out Zach Wilson to the NFL. Yeah. You see so many times just these teams out like the Mountain West or the Sun Belt. They have 1 or 2 great seasons with a young quarterback. He gets shipped off to the NFL and they fall right off a cliff. Yeah. BYU is coming out this year. They have 3 wins over Pac-12 opponents. This isn't a Pac-12 team. They beat Arizona, who is now, I think, in first place for the longest losing streak in college football. But it doesn't matter. Utah, a team they haven't beaten in a decade, I believe it was, or over a decade. And then Arizona State, who they now go in and beat, who was ranked, pardon me, by the way.
They were ranked. Not anymore.
So, out of conference schedule, couldn't have done any better. They'll start in conference here shortly after they take on USF from the American here next week, or this upcoming Saturday. And then they go in against Utah State, and I mean, for Utah State, they're doing all right. They picked up a win against Air Force, Washington State, and North Dakota. So I mean, they're going to come into this game 3-0, but I think it's still one that we see BYU heavily favorably in. But BYU's schedule, it's going to get tough, and for the Sun Devils, it's just with a team they were kind of expecting to go up there against Oregon, UCLA, and really, get the Pac-12 back into things. Now taking a hard out-of-conference loss, and Oregon really is the only team from the Pac-12 that stands any chance. I mean, you look at...
There's no argument right there.
Right. And you look at the ACC. It's Clemson or bust for them.
Clemson or bust.
Even, I think, Wake Forest needs a fantastic season. Yeah. They need a perfect season and a win over, Clemson in that game. And I mean, you look at Wake Forest's schedule; they don't face Clemson until second to last week, so they'd have to pick up the win there, and then most likely go back into the ACC championship game against coming out of the Coastal, Virginia Tech, UNC, or potentially who they would end up facing, maybe Virginia. We're still waiting to see who in that part of the division comes out. And even with the win over this Clemson team that we don't know of, it's hard pressed to say the ACC, even with an undefeated champion, could send someone to the playoff.
I don't think so.
Not with the way we're seeing Oregon. Oregon goes undefeated right now, they're in. If they take the Pac-12, they're in. Iowa or Penn State, they go all out whatever game they're in. Same with Michigan State or Michigan. If any of those teams from the Big Ten goes undefeated, takes the championship away from Ohio State, they're in.
They're in.
Alabama and Georgia, I think, have sealed their spots. Unless they fall apart at some point this season, which I don't expect them to, they're in. And that's your solidified top four.
So your top two
and
right now
Oklahoma's right behind them.
Yeah.
Ohio State's going to be in the question no matter what, unless they lose another game. Which, I mean, it is possible. But even I think if they are a two-loss team, they're a team that sits in the top 10 because of the way the media views them, honestly. If they lose again, I don't think they're a top 10 worthy team. But, they're up there, and they're going to be up there so long as they want to. And you look at Texas A&M out there. Florida's up there. They're close in the battle. It's so hard-pressed to find another conference to put someone in, especially with Cincinnati right now. If Cincinnati goes undefeated, wins their conference, it's hard to say they're not sitting there at number 5 or number 6 right behind Oklahoma or in front of Oklahoma. It's such a tight race that I don't think any team this year has a chance to slip up unless we see these top teams start falling. But
there's a bunch. You gotta look out for a bunch of these rebound teams. I mean, Penn State, one of them. How about Kansas State? They've been doing all right. They're in the top 25.
They are.
Yeah, they've been way better than they were last year. And I mean, Ole Miss as well. I mean, I don't think they're gonna.
I mean, how high are we really gonna be on Kansas State? 3-0 with the win over.
Definitely. Right now, they're definitely a rebound team now. So they can be dangerous.
They can be dangerous, but look at who they faced. Stanford, who was not great this year. 24-7, they blew them out. Then they were in a dogfight against an FCS opponent in Southern Illinois, who was a good team from the FCS. They're part of our conference here that Youngstown State plays in, I believe. Then they beat Nevada.
But look at their schedule coming up. Oklahoma and Iowa State. Well,
they need to win.
That's what we're determined.
Keep in mind after that too. I mean, obviously Texas Tech and TCU always annoying opponents to face, and then you got West Virginia too.
They could be for real.
In the end of the season in Texas.
Yeah.
True. I mean, by the time we hit the end of the season, Texas and Steve Sarkisian could be a completely different monster too. So, I mean, lots of things to look out for. And speaking of the Clemson team we were just talking about a moment ago, they nearly got upset, and I don't think anybody was predicting it was this bad of a situation in Clemson. 14-8 over Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech?
Georgia Tech, yeah. We've talked struggles from this offense, and now it even looks worse. This is a team that lost to Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois, didn't they? Hold on, let me pull them up. Who did they just? Yeah, they just got blown out 63-0 by Michigan. Lost 50-43 against Wyoming.
And beat Georgia Tech.
Beat Georgia Tech, who almost just knocked off Clemson here. Clemson has just struggled this season. I mean, their only good game was against South Carolina State from the FCS, a team that hasn't done anything. I mean, Clemson is not looking good right now. It is a bad time for DJ and the Tigers.
And Brett Venables.
I mean, you look
good, because I don't like them.
I mean, you look at
this
offense
here. Ohio State kid.
18 catches. 126 yards came out of it. Where is the offense? Where is this explosiveness that we've seen from them? Without Trevor and Etienne, they have nothing here. No. Will Shipley right behind him, 21 carries for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's okay.
A year ago, this is a 60-point win.
Right.
It is.
And now, as much as people are talking about Ohio State and their coordinators and talking about, why are they falling off? Why is Clemson falling off?
Yeah, why is Clemson falling off?
Where's the recruiting?
Why is everybody all on Ohio State? They haven't fallen off yet. They had one. I mean, they put a tough Oregon team, okay?
Right, who's sitting right behind the Georgia squad that beat Clemson.
That could have went either way. That game could have went either way. Kerry Coombs, he just came back, and he was in the NFL.
I think last year he came back, yeah.
Last year or whatever, he came back. So you have ups and downs. Look, Penn State, they were 0-5 last year for the first time.
Right, and then came back in the season on a strong note, and now they're starting off good this year.
Now they're starting off good.
But you know what? Everyone has always said about Dabo Swinney is, he doesn't go and recruit 5-star guys. He goes out and finds the hidden gems in 3-star, 4-star guys. This is what happens when you don't recruit top guys in the nation, when you're trying to compete at a national level, and you're trying to run the offenses that 5-stars play. 3-stars can't do some of this stuff, Obviously, there are some great 3-star talents, but Dabo Swinney's recruiting has always been kind of like this, off-the-charts, different style type thing. And now we're coming in here, and it's like, well, without the number 1 quarterback recruit of all time, he can't score. So everyone's been saying last, 8 years since he had Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, and...
So DJ was a 5-star.
Oh, yeah, and DJ. DJ was a 5-star. He was a 5-star. He was high. But now without Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, he can't score the ball.
10th, ranked 10th national.
I know where they are.
But
I've always had a problem with recruiting numbers because watch what happens from the end of the season where these guys sit and by the time they get recruited. This is something I've always hated. When you look at the way guys are recruited and rankings go, you end the season and a guy's ranked number 1. You reach the start of the next season, that guy's fallen to 25th.
Oof.
And it's like, well, no. I want to see how you guys play during the season. I don't care about your off season nearly as much. The way the recruiting numbers work off season, it boosts guys up, and this is happening to Ohio State too. They'll get a guy that's ranked 150th. By the time we get around to him actually signing it on National Signing Day, he's ranked top 50. And it's like, well, how does that work? You go look at the guys that Clemson's recruiting straight out of the regular season or right into playoff time.
Yeah.
They're not the 5-star guys. DJ is, yes, but now we're seeing what's happening when Clemson hasn't been recruiting the big guy.
That's true.
They're falling behind.
That's true.
And this is a team now ranked 9th. I think is going to fall further after this one. I mean, obviously they're going to, this was their start of ACC play. They have NC State coming up here, but before we talk about that game, because we are going to talk about that next, we'll look a little bit more in depth into this game. Georgia Tech, Jordan Yates going up against this, what's supposed to be a top defense, 20 of 33, 203 yards. He didn't find the end zone. And the rush game really didn't do terribly much out of one guy, because Jordan Yates was their leading rusher for 32 yards. But then, Jahmyr Gibbs had 30, Dante Smith at 24, Jordan Mason at 20. So they were splitting carries pretty well, over 100 yards there on the ground. But the offense is just not great for Georgia Tech, and they still almost pull it out against Clemson.
Almost.
This is a game you look at, it's like, they still won it. At the end of the day, yes, they did, but you look at the way they won it. They needed to win this thing in the fourth quarter against GT. It's so hard to look at this and go, well, this is a good win for Clemson. It's not.
It's not.
It's a good loss for Georgia Tech, is what it is.
You don't look at Clemson winning here. You look like, wow, look how close Georgia Tech got. Even though they lost, look how close they were. You don't look as a quality win.
And it's the same thing we said week 1 after Tulane took it to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
What a good loss for Tulane. It wasn't a good win for Oklahoma. That was a bad win for Oklahoma, a team that was supposed to be top 5. And they're falling off the mark just as much, I think. Not nearly as much as Clemson, but they're falling off too. Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma, I think, are all sliding off this season. More than likely we see them back up there in the next season or two.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way college football works. You don't stay down long when you're a blue-chip program like this. Especially with the amount of money they pump into athletics. You're going to be back up there. But, you know what? When these teams are having a down year, it's everybody else's chance to go as hard as possible. And I think we're seeing that. I think some of these teams are coming in here. Look at Oregon. They saw weaknesses against Ohio State. They went in and attacked. Even Tulsa did it against Ohio State. Attacked. Minnesota did it against Ohio State. Now you look at Clemson. Georgia took it to them. They nearly got upset there by GT. And obviously the FCS opponent wiped that off the mark. But Oklahoma, Tulane took it to them. And you keep seeing this season after season, or game after game this season. Teams are coming right up to them and nearly knocking them off. Or in Ohio State's chance are getting knocked off.
Might do it. North Carolina State, they might just do it.
I think the Wolfpack, if anyone's got the chance at the early point in the season to knock off Clemson besides Georgia in the ACC, it's NC State. You look at them right now, their one loss, was to Mississippi State, who's looking okay in the SEC right now.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they started off 2-0 out of conference, lost to Memphis, so they're 2-1, and it's an okay team. But the big one, week 1 against USF, a team that has always been a tougher opponent, but up and down in recent years. And then they beat Furman last week, so it's kind of a knockoff. But there's something going into this game. There's a feel about it. The fact that NC State opened this game as a 10-point underdog against a top 10 team speaks to the values of what people think right now of NC State and what they think of Clemson's offense. You look at NC State and how many points they've held their opponents to. You look at the Mississippi State game, just 24.
Ooh.
I mean, not bad, but their offense couldn't produce that game. The other 2 weeks, though, they scored 45 in both of them.
Yeah. One was against South Florida, one was against Furman.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think we're looking at any other big team. You look at them on the season, like, no, that's not good. We're not saying NC State's a team that's going to compete this year, but upsets. You don't have to be a great team. Look at Purdue and Ohio when they beat Ohio State. They were good, but we knew they could score coming into those games.
Even look at Penn State.
Right.
Knocking off Ohio State. I know they became good later. They almost made the playoff and everything. But at that time when they played Ohio State, they sucked. They lost to Pitt and got blown up by Michigan. Nobody thought they were going to be good. They were 4-2 when they played them.
It's just a matter of how upsets work in college football.
And
you don't have to be the better team.
That may start something.
You don't have to be the better team. You just have to be the better team that day.
You have to be the smartest team.
You got to be hungry.
You got to be hungry. Then that might be a string of events to be set. What if they beat them? Be like, oh man, and just go off on a string.
I mean, it's very possible that a win like that could change the tide of the ACC if NC State takes it. Because we've seen Wake Forest come up right to the cusp of Clemson. They haven't been able to come over that edge, and I think that's kind of what you're saying when you got Ohio State, Michigan, right? It's the same comparison. You got this team that's right there. They are so good. They're on the cusp every time. They just can't get through that ceiling. And then you got Penn State, the team that's like, yeah, all right, let's go and do it. Let's take it to Ohio State. And they go up there, they're right there next to Michigan, and sometimes they can punch through that ceiling. They have the ability to win that game. We haven't seen that from Michigan. We haven't seen that from Wake Forest against Clemson. Perhaps this NC State team is the team that comes in there and pulls off the huge upset and turns the tide of their program, or whether or not they take this game close into the fourth quarter, it might still show other recruits, hey, Clemson's not the powerhouse of the ACC anymore. They may have won this game, but the fact that our recruits were less, our coaching is better. And we're going to come up there and we're going to take it from you. Look at, UNC with Mac Brown. Great coaching down there.
Absolutely.
Wake Forest has good coaching. Virginia and Virginia Tech both are good coaching teams. And there's a lot of talent-wise in the ACC. No one's been able to punch it through to Clemson yet, to knock them out. And this might be the season someone does it, and I think you have to do it before DJ hits his stride and hits his junior year.
It's not going to happen again. After he hits that stride, he'll be
That's
just
with a
he might be better
quarterback.
than Lawrence.
It's
He'll be up
possible.
there. It's possible.
It's possible.
It's
You
not
don't want to say
guaranteed. It is not guaranteed.
I mean, look at the last two quarterbacks, though, for them.
Deshaun Watson?
Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence.
Who's the other guy? There's one more guy. Kelly Bryant?
Yeah, Kelly Bryant was good, too. Played it on a national level and played it well.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you look at, how do quarterbacks go from 1 to 1 to 1? Look at Ohio State, the progression they've gone in from Terrell Pryor to Braxton Miller to JT Barrett to Cardale, back to JT, then to Dwayne, then to Justin. Now it's CJ Stroud's turn, and you kind of see this progression is going up and up and up. Then you bring the young guy, and it's like, well, hold on. Can he find it back? And every time they have, now you go down to Oklahoma, same thing there. You go from Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, and now Spencer Rattler. Multiple guys there won Heisman's, 2 in a row. They won Heisman's.
Yep.
And obviously Jalen Hurts didn't have the Heisman level season, but he turned out now as a pretty good NFL quarterback.
Sure did.
And next man up. It's got to be next man up. Who's the next man up in the ACC? We're going to find out this weekend if Clemson is still the top dog or if it's the Wolfpack's time to cry. I mean, it could be a tough game, man. I'm going to ring my bell in this one. I got NC State taking the upset 17-14.
I'll go 20-17.
Wolfpack?
Yeah, Wolfpack. Taking it. Oh!
I don't think if this game gets high scoring, NC State wins it.
Okay.
I think if Clemson can find the mark on offense, your defense is so good it's going to lock it down. This has to be a game Clemson's offense struggles.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll get into it out of college football. Wrap up our final 10 minutes of the show. A little bit of boxing. Matt, why don't you get us into here?
I'm getting into it right here.
Alvarez versus Plant. Trading blows the news conference.
Oh, man. You don't mess around with Canelo Alvarez. This guy is a beast. A beast. He's 5'9", 168 pounds. Okay, small guy. But, man, 56 wins. 38 KOs, 2 draws. You know how many losses? Just 1. You know who he lost to? Floyd Money Mayweather. And that was Mayweather in his prime, 2013 I think it was. This guy, and I mean, Canelo Alvarez, he's only 31 years old. He's not that old. Going up against Plant, who, he's 21 in OSU, 12 KOs, young boxer coming up. But you don't stare down, stare down because he's taller than Alvarez. You don't stare him down without retaliation from Alvarez. But if everybody's seen that video yesterday, Alvarez, boom, and just started swinging. You know, he's still fat. He's fast. He can throw those jabs. This guy is unbelievable. He's up there with top boxers all the time.
Well, this fight will be November 6th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. The IBF champion, Plant, he's going to have to go in there 21-0 though, and never drawed as well. And I like that out of him. But Alvarez on his side will risk his WBC, WBA, and WBO super middleweight titles against him. You know what? This is a game. Not a game. This is a match. I think I'm taking Plant here. I know that all the hype on Alvarez. He's done it for so long. He's only lost down to Mayweather. Yeah. But hey, man, what have we seen in sports? What have we seen in sports recently? It's the young man's time to shine.
Yeah.
We've seen it everywhere across sports. Whether we're talking NASCAR, NFL, college football, hockey, basketball, everywhere, it's been the young guy's time to go. I'm taking the young guy again.
We'll see, man. Alvarez is taking down some monsters.
We still have over a month to go, though. So.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Alvarez is a force to be reckoned with. This guy is awesome. He's just awesome.
Well, it should be something for sure. And
we'll talk about. We're gonna talk more. We're gonna try and talk more boxing. We got the big Tyson Fury Part 3 fight against I can't forget Wilder again. So we'll talk more about that. But
all right,
let's move on.
We're gonna get into this one here. Washington football team down to their last 8 names here as they're trying to pick. They said they will unveil here in 2022, so we got to wait now another few months, potentially even more if they wait up until the start of the new season. I think we'll hit Super Bowl weekend, and maybe the week or two after that, they're going to unveil it. I think it'll come before the NFL draft, most likely, so they'll draft these players to this new football team and see what happens. Their final 8 names: the Red Hogs, the Defenders, the Armada, the Presidents, the Brigade, the Commanders, the Red Wolves, and the Washington football team. And out of all those, frankly,
I like the football team.
I like football team.
I like the Red Wolves too. That would probably be the second one. But really, the Presidents? That's the best you got. Like, I know you're in Washington, but that's the best you got. The Presidents.
I think I'd rather take the Washington Bullets.
Dear God.
Or should they just change that to tear gas now? Oh, the Washington tear gas.
The Red Hogs? Where do you get Red Hogs?
Right? I mean, Hogs.
I don't even know where you get Red Wolves, but I like the Wolves.
Well, I know Red Wolves, I think, are indigenous to, like, Maryland or something, so it's in the area. But, like, Defenders? What are they defending? I mean, granted, maybe they're naming it after the only good part of the football team, their defense, perhaps, but we haven't seen them defend their own end zone for a while now. And the Armada? I mean, how about we use an American, like, term here for football instead of going out there? Isn't Armada Spanish or Italian? Yeah. Well, why don't we come up with our own words here?
And why don't we get out of the 1800s? Why don't we get out of the 1800s?
Right. Like,
really? The Commanders? Who come the Commanders? No. I'm not feeling it.
Man.
And the Red Wolves are based in
I have
Canada.
a feeling it's going to be Red Wolves.
The Red Wolves are also mainly based in Canada.
Ooh.
Named the southeastern United States.
Here's the Red Hogs thing. Stems from a nickname Washington's offensive line during the late 80s and 90s. They were called the Hogs. So they want to keep the traditional red and gold for them.
What do I say about the Wolves? There's the Wolves.
The Red Wolves, it's gained a lot of traction among Washington fans on Twitter.
Yeah, I remember Haskins.
Because they're an endangered species that reside in the southeastern United States.
Yeah, southeast. I was about to say that.
But, like, you look at all these names, and it's just like, I don't know where it's coming from. Obviously, the Armada Brigade Commanders Defenders are all, military names, and...
I don't think you should go based off the fact you're, like, raped by Washington, D.C.
Right.
I don't... Like... Come on, man.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than that.
It's like when we looked at the Indians changing their names. It was the Guardians?
Yeah,
I don't even
want to get it.
I don't understand who's picking names for teams these days.
But I don't want to get into that.
How about they go talk to someone from the XFL on how to name a football team? Or the AAF?
Yeah.
From a few years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, they had some pretty good names, I think,
The Black... What was it? Blackhawks? No, there wasn't a Black... Battlehawks. The Battlehawks. That was a cool name.
If they want to go something military, Battlehawk.
Yeah.
The Washington Battlehawks.
Something. I think when you go to the Armada and Brigade and the Presidents, I think you're lazy. Like, we'll just take the easy way out. We'll pick a name related to DC.
Easy way out, they should have gone with Joe Flacco's team. Or not Joe Flacco.
What?
Joe Falco.
Oh, yeah, the Sentinels. That would be cool. That would be great.
It's something that would be great. That the fans, I think, would get right behind.
Absolutely, I would.
Shane Falco, not Joe. Joe Flacco, Shane Falco.
Same thing.
They both choked in a big game. One's a fictional character choked in the Rose Bowl. The other one's Falco, and that. So, I mean, out of all these, I don't mind Washington football team. I kind of like it.
I like it. I like the numbers on the helmets.
I love the numbers on the helmets. I think it's classy.
Yeah.
Just get the one stripe down the middle. It looks clean. And I think they've done a great job in branding this Washington football team.
And the fans have gotten behind it. Right. I like it.
And then when they're bad, you just change it from WFT to WTF.
Yeah.
And it all just works out just fine on its own.
Yeah, here comes a football team. I like it.
I don't think we're going to have a ton of time to go over here 0-2 teams in the league.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Matt, best 0-2 team in the NFL right now. I'll give you the list. The Jets, who are 0-2, definitely not them.
No.
And then you have the Colts and the Jags in the AFC. Then you go over to the NFC side. The Giants and the Vikings and the Lions and the Falcons. Who's the best?
I got to go with the Vikings. Vikings are the best 0-2 team right now. They've almost won.
They've almost won both of those games. I think that's the important part when you look at it.
Cook,
They've also had the most points for out of any of those teams as well. They're sitting there at 57. If the defense finds it, there's 61 points against. But you look at their side in the NFC North here. They have the most points for in that entire conference, in that entire division.
Out of all the 0-2 teams, they might make a playoff push.
Right.
They might.
And it's hard to say that because we haven't seen very many 0-2 teams ever make the playoffs, at least here in recent years. But now the playoff format's been expanded. So more teams get in. Yeah. So more chance for 0-2 squads to come into the season. Last season, it was just, one team that started 0-2, I believe, made it in at the end of the year. I don't remember who it was. But
I can't remember.
These aren't the best 0-2 teams to look at. So I think it's one of those things. They're 0-2. I think they're going to stay down the bottom half. But like we're saying, if any of these teams have the chance to dig themselves out of the hole, it's the Vikings.
It's the Vikings. They have Dalvin Cook. I mean, Kirk Cousins is not a horrible quarterback. He's a guy.
And he's performing right now.
Yeah, he's kind of like Derek Carr with the Raiders. He's not elite, but exactly.
Well, that's going to wrap up the show for us today. I've been Alec Burner, with me, Matt Morrison. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to be talking some Major League Baseball, and we're going to take a look ahead at a few games for this coming weekend in college football as well. We'll be talking Panthers versus Texans on Thursday night, and we'll get to some more of the games from this past weekend in the NFL. But make sure to tune in. Thank you for the ongoing support this week. We're halfway through it. We'll see you all next time.